up, guys? I never thought I would say this, but I am about to introduce you to our presidential candidate, Marc Allan Feldman, MD, MHS. Dr. Feldman is a practicing physician with a background in health, finance, and outcomes research. His interest in politics is to offer an alternative to the two-party system. He is concerned with the use of elected offices as instruments of party politics instead of protecting and promoting the security, well-being, and freedom of the people. He is a 1980 graduate of Northwestern University with a major in philosophy, Phi Beta Kappa. He has a medical degree from the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, was awarded a master's degree in health, finance, and management from the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, and is a life member of Delta Omega Public Health Honor Society. He practiced anesthesiology at Johns Hopkins for 11 years until recruited to the Cleveland Clinic in 1998. He is married to his beautiful wife, Ann, and has 4 children. His sons, Aaron and Abram, are 2012 and 2013 graduates of The Ohio State University. His cherished son, Alec, who he lost his battle with cancer 2 years ago at the age of 16, and his youngest son, Andrew, is still in high school. His hobbies include electronics, internet computing, and television. Welcome, Dr. Feldman.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to get this one to make this more of a seminar. I want to have participation. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. I do have one of the regional leaders and Students for Liberty, Brendan Bennett, is running a little late. He just texted me he'll be here in a few minutes. So hopefully he got the information. So I'd like to spend just a couple minutes. You heard a little bit about me. I want to get a little bit of an idea of where you all are at being here today. I know it's a class, so you got to be here, right? It's attendance. I don't know where we're at in the midterms and finals situation. I know that this is a class where there wasn't any homework. Now I did provide some information. How many people here actually got and don't lie, how many people here got a chance to look at the links that were distributed? A couple. And what's that?
Like read the handout, or?
Yeah,
no,
they also read them.
Right, and then there was a handout. How many people got a chance to read the handout? Okay, pretty much everybody. So that's great. So how many people here had looked at this website before today? One? Did I see one down there maybe? Okay. Anybody who look at my Facebook page or Twitter feed? Okay, so what led you to take another look?
My boyfriend wanted to see who I was seeing in class today.
Oh, okay. So really nobody's actually. I'm just kidding. So now, just to tell you, I'm running as a Libertarian. Libertarians like to say we're the third largest national political party, which is true, but it's about 1,000th the size of the second. I mean, so it's very different. The Libertarian Party started in the early 70s, and basically the person who is most responsible for the Libertarian Party is probably Richard Nixon. When Nixon had, there were a lot of people who were concerned about the government being too centralized, too powerful, and when Nixon came in and did wage and price controls, a group of intellectuals just said, there must be a better way. And the Libertarian Party basically says that everybody should be able to do whatever they want as long as they're not taking something or infringing on the rights of anybody else. So it's a very different kind of view, and especially when you talk about communication and persuasion and influence, libertarians really take a very different point of view of things, and this will come up as we discuss some the issues. Now, I was not really, I have not been a libertarian that long. There are lifelong libertarians, and they have a very interesting view on things. Some of those I agree with, some of the I disagree with. I really describe myself as a non-voter. Not that I didn't care. I was an educated and engaged non-voter. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I knew some politicians personally, and there was never one I wanted to support. So I'm kind of I am a anti-politician, from that standpoint. How I got involved in politics was I was recruited from the Johns Hopkins in Baltimore to the Cleveland Clinic, and one of my patients asked me, Dr. Feldman, how did they get you to move from Baltimore to Cleveland? I said it was mostly because of family connections. They said, oh, that's great, so you have family here in Cleveland. I said, no, they're all in Baltimore. That's why I moved to Cleveland. But I had a subspecialty in anesthesia for eye surgery, and the Cleveland Clinic was building a new eye institute, so they wanted an experienced person, so there were only a few of us. So they recruited me up. They made a very nice package for me. One of the things that I was interested in, I was, I've always been somewhat concerned about fiscal responsibility and the budgets, and George Voinovich, senator from Ohio, was a real budget hawk and a very practical fellow. And not only did he think that balancing the budget by cutting spending was very important, but he also recognized that the large amount of money going into our campaigns and the amount of fundraising that the candidates need to do was preventing politicians from doing the work necessary to balance the budget. And that's why he retired when he did, because he was very much involved, and so that he could not fulfill his mission and be a candidate at the same time. So around the same time, I looked at the Libertarian Party, and I noticed they didn't have any candidate for Senate. They had very few statewide candidates, and I had messaged a friend of mine who was involved. I said, this could be the year. This was in 2009, 2010. I said, people are getting kind of fed up with the Democrats and Republicans. They're going to want another choice. The least you should do is have a full slate of candidates. So 2 weeks later, I get a call at my office. Thank you for your interest, Dr. Feldman. Actually, we hadn't updated our website. We do have a full slate of candidates, except for Attorney General. We need a candidate to run for Attorney General. So while we have you on the phone, would you be willing to run for Attorney General? I said, well, I'm not an attorney. They said, we checked the Ohio Constitution. You don't need to be an attorney. I said, well, what do I have to do? They said, sign the form. Well, I said, well, I'm sure that there's petitions that need to be done and paperwork. They said, we'll take care of all that. We need a candidate. We would like you to be our candidate. So I agreed. Later, I found what had happened was that the Libertarian Party was involved in a lawsuit against Ohio for ballot access. So it was only recently that the court said that the Ohio ballot access law was unconstitutional, and that they had to put libertarians on the ballot, which gave the Libertarian Party a short window to fill the slate. And I think one of the things which you want to be careful about with libertarian candidates is, because we believe people should be able to do whatever they want to do, we get some pretty crazy people as candidates. And for the statewide office, they wanted to get people who would not embarrass the party on short notice. So I think they figured that if I'm a physician at the Cleveland Clinic, I'm probably not a crazy person. So, and they're it's kind of pre-vetted now. I'm going to be going rather quickly. This is the first time I'm giving a seminar at a school. So, although I was an assistant professor at Hopkins, I give plenty of talks, but in terms of politics. So, as you've already noticed, I'm a fast talker. If any questions come up, feel free to interrupt anytime. If I lose my train of thought, I'm sure you'll help. But I'm going to try to keep this fast paced. I want to bounce things off you. If something strikes you as being really right or really wrong, I want you to chime in. So I agreed to run for Attorney General, but I wasn't going to put any money into it. And I'm really not going to put a lot of time into it. I was interested in advertising. My email is marc@openivo.com, OPENIVO. OpenIvo or OpenEvo is a company that I started. I'm the only person involved in this company. But I got this idea. And this will tie together later, but I had a hobby of hooking computers to TV sets. And it was great because it allowed you to make your own DVR, no monthly fee. You could skip commercials, you could record shows, you could send them to your cell phone. A lot of things you could do with computers. But I had the idea that using a computer hooked to the TV set, you could make TV commercials similar to internet ads, where you could make it so that you would only send commercials that people would actually want to see. So that, if you're skipping commercials, then the computer would learn not to send you those commercials in the first place. On the other hand, if there are things you're interested in, so for instance, I'm very hard on my shoes. I wear out shoes in about 3 to 6 months. I would love to see commercial for walking shoes. You never see a commercial for walking shoes. You never see commercial for bicycles. You don't see commercials. Now we could discuss why it is. Why do you think you don't see commercials for bicycles?
People that are avidly into bicycle riding might not be watching much TV.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly, there's not the people who are involved in corporations are human beings like you and me, and they have their own desires and goals and mission in life. But the corporation has one responsibility, and that is to make money. And if you don't get a return on your investment, then you don't do it. So it costs a lot of money to put commercials on television, and if they're not going to, and the fact is, a car costs $30,000. I don't know how much a car costs. Pair of shoes, cost $20 or $50. I got it for $20, but there just isn't that return on investment. And also, it's also not really what television is about. I once said that there's two things on television. There are video presentations that are designed to get you to buy stuff, and then there are the commercials. Even the shows are designed to appeal to a consumer's culture. So, for instance, you're watching a TV show. How often is someone going to be shopping or driving somewhere versus how often in a sitcom would you ever see someone talk about a great book they read? No, I mean it's not. And it's very interesting, and I'm sure I hope you learn about it. I'd be interested to hear your views on it. But it's a very interesting two-way street between media and the public. It used to be much more one way. It used to be a one-to-many situation. There were only 3 channels on TV. Everybody watched TV. And if you had the money to put something on TV, you could send that message out to everybody. And you could show images and things that would tend to promote. And, you show your, I'll mention a couple commercials that kind of bother me. And you can tell me if they bother you or not. One of them is, people love this. Well, one is I'm a physician, and one of the big issues for me is the obesity problem, not just in this country, but now in this world. Obesity now has overcome hunger as the #1 nutritional problem in the world, so even in developing countries. And one of the things I say is, we have a hunger problem. The problem is we have a lot of overweight people who are way too hungry. And you see, so there was a commercial for, I think it was Wendy's, I'm not sure. It had Paris Hilton, scantily dressed with this huge cheeseburger. Now, this girl weighs maybe 95 pounds. She never eats this. But she's all wet, washing a car with a cheeseburger in it. And I'm thinking, this just appeals to, not even the cortex, it's going right to the brainstem and medulla to try to convince people to associate fast cars, sexy women with this, calorie time bomb. The other one that people how many people here saw that commercial? Okay, and this also shows you that in the old days everybody would have seen this commercial, but now there's 1,000 channels on TV and people just don't watch it that much, especially in your age. The other commercial I bet you probably heard of was for Snickers bars. So they have some wild, angry, dangerous person who's yelling at people, right? You've seen it, and they go, "Here, you're not yourself. Have a Snickers bar," and then they bite it, and then they go, "Okay, now." It's entertaining. How many people here saw that commercial? Yeah, everybody saw that. That's a good commercial. From that standpoint, what's the message it's sending? It's saying, don't think about eating right, okay? Because you can't control it. When you're hungry, you're not responsible. You're a different person. You're Mr. T. You're not who you are. So don't think about it. Don't try to make yourself a better person. It's useless. Just eat another Snickers and you'll feel better. And it's, to me it's kind of offensive because that does have an effect. But always the question is the problem with the corporations that are sending these messages, or is the problem with us for being receptive to those messages? And this goes right into my politics. So the biggest issue for me, what my campaign is all about, is that we are now spending obscene amounts of money on these political campaigns, and that there's no way you can balance a budget when you owe billions of dollars in favors to the special interests that are supporting these things. So there is a lot of talk about campaign finance reform and having new laws and legislation, which libertarians are against. So how many people here are familiar with Citizens United ruling? Let me see hands go up against the Citizens United ruling. We got 2, I think. 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Kyra?
Yeah, 2, no.
How about you? Citizens
No.
United?
Nope.
All right.
Sorry.
Now, see, this is part of why I'm here, because libertarians, we have a tendency to go in our echo chambers, and I would have guessed that everybody would have heard about this. What Citizens United said basically is that political campaign contributions are free speech, and that if you have $1 billion and you want to spend it on one candidate, you should have the right to do that, because otherwise it is infringing on your right of free speech. And I'll tell you, as a libertarian, we believe in private property and that people should be able to do whatever they want to do, for the most part, with their property. So if someone wants to spend $1 billion on a campaign, they ought to be able to do that. Now, how does that mesh with the idea that we think that people should not be controlled and that we shouldn't have special interests controlling our government? Well, what I say is that we do need to get the influence of big money out of our political campaigns, but we should do it the same way we got overt racism out of our political campaigns. There was a time where if you wanted to win, especially in the South, you had that Southern strategy. You appeal to people's racist impulses. How many people here heard of Eddie Horton? I think I got the name right. Eddie Horton? No. Eddie Horton was a black criminal who Michael Dukakis, it was his program, who was a presidential candidate, gave him a furlough in which he committed murder. And the Republicans put a picture of this black murderer in their campaign information. And it wasn't about the furlough program. It somehow, I don't know how you would say it, resonated with the racist impulses of a lot of people who felt that they wanted to be safe from people like that. And Michael Dukakis, and it was effective. Now the problem, but we don't see that anymore. And the reason we don't see it is not because we made racism in campaigns illegal. Racists can still do campaigns. The difference is we don't vote for them anymore. That message doesn't resonate with people anymore. We now have, in all 50 states, same-sex marriage now is legal, which I think is great. But, it's not so much that people, you had the sea change in the community. It used to be that everybody was against it. It used to be that the whole idea of same-sex marriage was kind of icky. That it's just people thought it was wrong. Now people think that discriminating against gay people is icky. That there's more negative emotional feeling with discrimination than there is with a different lifestyle. Now, this, I'm in an interesting situation because, one of the things I tell libertarians is that I'm not running for president of the Libertarian Party, I'm running for president of the United States. So I need to talk to other people to know, what it is that resonates with you. Because, you mentioned Citizens United to most Democrats, Republicans. Here's a question for you. How many people consider themselves Democrats? Put your hands up, go on, be proud. How many people consider themselves Republicans? How many people consider themselves independent? How many people consider themselves not interested in politics at all? How many people did not raise their hand? That's fine. And it's interesting. One of the things I like to do, and I recommend you all do, is I read a lot, and I read about different things. I tell people that we are creatures of our environment. What I tell my patients in terms of weight loss is don't worry about what you eat. Think about what's in your food environment. That if you're not within 20 feet, if you can never be within 20 feet of something, you're not going to eat it. But if you've got it around, and I think part of the problem with our nutritional status is that every few blocks we have, or less, we have a fast food place, and it's in our culture and it's in our society. There is not an overweight person on my street where I live in Beechwood. It's an upper class area, and it's just there's so much social negativity to it, I guess. But now, how I spend time in Manhattan. You go to Manhattan. You don't see, most people are very, very slim because you don't have as many of the fast food places, and people are more active. So there's that interaction. So this is one of the things I want to say at the end of the period. So we're going to 12:30?
12:45.
12:45. So remind me at 12:15. I want to go to this question of how do we communicate with people to get them to change the way they vote. So that's but we'll say, so this is more kind of background. So just to though go back to the Libertarian Party and my challenges, part of the reason why the Libertarian Party has trouble getting candidates is because there are many libertarians who hold very unpopular opinions. We have a core of the party which is anarchist, who feels that all government is wrong because government is the use of force. So we're against the use of force on people. We shouldn't have government. How many people think that we could do just fine without government? One. Okay. Are you a member of the Libertarian Party yet?
I don't think I've renewed my membership.
Oh, but you were. Okay. So I'll ask you to chime in, if there's anything that I'm bringing that's particularly true or false. Now, there's also a section of the Libertarian Party who is racist. And because we don't use force, we don't want to tell people that your racism should be against the law. And there are people who say that discrimination should not be illegal. Discrimination is just a thought in your mind, and we shouldn't make laws against people's thoughts in their mind. And one of the things that what I try to get across to libertarians is, yeah, if it's in a thought in your mind, it may be repugnant, but it shouldn't be illegal. On the other hand, if your thought in your mind is leading you not to hire somebody who you have the power to hire or not hire, then you are causing an injury with what's in your mind, and that's an aggression. And one of the things libertarians are against is aggression. We're against aggression, we're against the use of force, but because the libertarians, this is you would never see a libertarian group that looks like this room. Okay, I think we have a majority female. We have it looks actually not that much different from America, I guess. You know,
Except for education level.
yes, education level definitely. But you know, Libertarian Party is usually a bunch of white guys, middle-aged white guys, not that different from the Republican Party. Now, because of the level of craziness, I do say that for a bunch of white guys, we do have a lot of diversity. Because, I don't know, has anyone in this room heard of the fellow named Augustus Invictus in Florida? Yes? Come on, raise your hand. Yeah, what do you know about Augustus Invictus?
There was a big story about him, about a piece of his history coming out that he sacrificed a goat, drank its blood after, he walked through a couple states on a pilgrimage of some sort. I don't know if this were related.
Yeah, well, basically, he's a libertarian. He's running for Senate in Florida, and he's not a Satanist, but he is involved in the occult, and he does talk not so much about race wars, but kind of allusions to it. He's a very strange, unpleasant person that nobody wants people in for the Libertarian Party. For him, everybody wishes he was a Republican, basically, except the Republicans. But I take a different view of it, and because there's a very interesting study in the New York Review of Books they use the New York Review of Books for data. What they found was if you look at book sales, and if you control for the authors and how popular they are in general, if you look at books that are not reviewed, they have this general growth rate that you would expect for whether they're successful or not. If they get a good review in the New York Times Book Review, then they get, I don't know what it is, a 50 or 60% jump in their sales. They get a really nice bump. On the other hand, if they get a really terrible review, they get a 30% jump. It's not below, it's actually better. And what this basically says is, if you are relatively unknown, there's no such thing as bad publicity. That even if people are talking bad smack about you, at least they're talking about you. So I actually think that Augustus may be good. I would say, they should run and maybe run somebody against him in the primaries. It's get him on TV. People go like, well, look how crazy the Libertarian Party is. And then everybody say, well, no, this guy is crazy. But look, there are other libertarians. And if now, can anybody here name a libertarian politician? Marc Feldman. Very good answer. Good answer. Come on now, you got to tell you. Who's a libertarian candidate for anything?
Gary Johnson. Yeah.
Gary Johnson. Well, actually, at the moment he's not a candidate. Everybody wants him to be a candidate. He keeps it on. He is he was our candidate in 2012. And, of course, no one here has heard about him. Even though he was on the ballot in 48 of the 50 states, he got 1% of the vote. Now, 1% of the vote is more than just about any other libertarian candidate for president ever got. But, and he got, I think, twice as much as the previous. I think the previous got 500,000. He got 1 million. So but the way I look at it is differently. I look at it that, if there's 3 people on the ballot and people don't care, they just want to vote for somebody, they're going to choose randomly, well, then you're going to get 33% of the vote. So if you're getting 0.5 or 1% of the vote, I don't look at it that he got 1% of the vote. I look at it that 99% of people voted against him. Now, that means that the previous year, 99.5% of people voted against him, but going from 99.5 to 99 is not a big jump, percentage-wise. Going from 0.5 to 1%. So my goal is not so much to increase the voting, but decrease the voting against. Yes?
So I didn't actually recognize that name, but every year there's a presidential election, I take like a quiz that goes I side with, and I put in all my views, and it'll tell me who I match with in the presidential candidates. And I think that year I actually matched the highest with the Libertarian candidate, so that was probably him. But like, if I was old enough to vote at that time, I wouldn't have voted for him anyways, because if I know he's not gonna win, I would rather have my vote count towards a candidate that I'm less against. So either the Democrat or the Republican, because I feel like that's where my vote would have counted.
And that is first of all, it's an excellent comment, and I think that it's true, and this is why I'm not gearing my campaign to people like you. I think it's great. I would love for you to vote for me, but I tell libertarians I'm not interested because one of the things we talk about is the lesser of two evils. There's a lot of people who might have thought Gary Johnson was the best candidate. He would have been a better president. We could go into detail, but I think he would have been a better president than Barack Obama. He definitely would have been a better president than Romney or McCain, but Romney at that time. But even people who thought he was the best of the three, a little bit more than half, wouldn't vote for him because they didn't want Romney to win, and the other half didn't want to vote for him because they didn't want Obama to win. So you get into this lesser of two evils. So yes.
Kind of going off that, like historically, which party does the Libertarian Party take votes away? Like, if I'm a Democrat, I'm trying to campaign against.
Well, it actually depends on the race. Traditionally, what they've said, because the Libertarian Party is very much into fiscal responsibility, traditionally they talked about them when you have a Libertarian, then fewer people vote for Republicans. However, more recently, when people look at it, it seems like it's pretty much split Republicans and Democrats. Probably because social issues now are more in people's minds. How many people watch the Republican debates? How many people watch Democrat debates? Who talked the most about balancing the budget? Anybody?
Republicans.
Which Republican?
They all
Did-
talk about their tax plans really strong.
They had tax plans, but they talk about balancing the budget. I mean, the only one I remember specifically having a plan to balance the budget was Rand Paul. And it's interesting that nobody mentioned Rand Paul as a libertarian, because a lot of people think because Ron Paul did run as his father as a libertarian candidate for president. His son Rand Paul, the comment that I liked was that everybody thinks that everybody says Rand Paul is libertarian except for Rand Paul and the libertarians, because we see him as a Republican. And he does have a plan to balance the budget in 5 years. Now, I think that's 5 years too late. Our budget is about, let me ask a question. How much over budget? For every dollar that our federal government brings in, how much do they spend? Take it, a lot. What do you think is a lot?
100,000 to $1 billion.
Well, no, I mean, but percentage-wise, you bring in $1. For every dollar they bring in, how much does our government spend?
300%.
You think $3? Okay, what do you think?
I would have thought like
20%,
20%.
$1.20. Anybody else?
7.
7 what? So for they get $1. You think it's?
So $1.07.
You think they're only spending $1.07?
Is that really low?
You're actually the closest without going over. It's about 13%. It's only at 13. So all we have to do would be to cut our budget by 13%. And it would be in balance. Now, I would not be running for president if I didn't think I could balance the budget on day one. Okay, well, so they say, how do you balance the budget? Well, it's actually very, very easy, especially for people in school. All you need to do is cut and paste. Basically, there are a list of published, vetted budget cuts that the Democratic Party and the president have come up with that target the they won't hurt the country, but they target the special interests that support Republicans. The Republicans have published a whole set of budget cuts that target the special interests that support Democrats. Also wouldn't hurt the country. Also going through the Office of Management and Budget. So all you really need to do is take these things, and they're all things like changing from the regular CPI to the chain CPI. Instead of building 67 of these planes, you built 34 of them. Instead of having 117 nukes, cut it down to 76 nukes. and you just put these together and you have a balanced budget. Yes.
If assuming that the cuts to the Republican side is primarily military spending, what would the equivalent be for the Democratic side?
For the Democratic side, a lot of it is the Wall Street. Wall Street tends to, because New York is more of a Democratic area, Wall Street tends to support Democrats more. Now, and this is one of the things I talk about is when you look at these campaigns, it's very interesting because you can hear what they say, you can hear what the rhetoric is, you can hear what their plans are. But if you really want to predict what a politician is going to do, you want to look at who's paying their bills. And basically, Bernie Sanders gets a lot of support from unions. Hillary Clinton gets it from more the banking industry, Wall Street. And the Republicans get it from the oil, gas, energy industry. And for instance, Barack Obama, I would say, in my opinion, Barack Obama putting the kibosh on that Keystone pipeline, which I don't think is a good idea. But the reason he did it is because he doesn't get a lot of money. The Democratic Party does not get a ton of money from the energy industry. Libertarians, for instance, are we're against the war on drugs. We think that drug abuse should be thought of as a medical problem, not a crime. And we are very pro-legalization of marijuana. However, we were against issue 3. How many people know what issue 3 was? Raise hands real high. How many people have no idea what issue 3 is? Okay, so it's more of an issue that people don't want to say anything. But issue 3 would have established 10, basically kind of an oligopoly of 10 organizations that could sell marijuana in the state. And libertarians felt that although we would very much like marijuana to be legalized, we don't want to set up another new system of monopoly and taxation because it just ends up controlling people more. And basically, if you're going to legalize marijuana and then put special taxes on it, and those taxes are going to be paying for a surveillance state and drone warfare, that it really isn't making us more free. Someone asked me what's my stand on marijuana. I say it's the same as my stand on oregano. Basically, I said that we should not legalize marijuana like alcohol and tobacco. We should normalize marijuana like caffeine and chocolate. Because those are also, they have psychological effects, and but there just isn't, and it's going to happen. Marijuana is going to get legalized in all 50 states, but the question is whether it will be done the right way, which means saying, look, it should not be a controlled substance. It doesn't make sense for it to be a controlled substance. We're going to just take it off, or whether it's going to be like alcohol and tobacco and start a whole new regulatory industry with it. Yes.
So when you say you don't want it to be like alcohol and tobacco, do you not agree with age restrictions on purchase or use of
all right. Well, just to clarify, because this is kind of a leitmotif of the libertarian, at least my view of libertarianism, is there's certain words that kind of I should have done trigger warnings. I've been told that that's something. Who knows what a trigger warning is? Hands high. We need hands high. How many people do not know what trigger warnings is? Okay, trigger warnings is that people who find things offensive get triggered by certain language or certain offensive things. If you were, instead of saying LGBT, if one talks about the gays as if they're some foreign species, that will trigger some people. Basically. And my understanding of the trigger warning is things that will get people upset. Certainly, if someone is a victim of sexual assault, if someone were to start to talk about sexual assault in a disrespectful way, that they would be triggered. So this is idea that and also if people are going to use language, one of my things I said is that I'm offended by the N-word. I'm not offended by the word nigger. I'm offended by the term, the N-word. Because if you're going to say nigger, say nigger. Nigger is a perfectly good word. The reason people don't use it now, the word nigger used to remind people of black inferiority. Now it reminds people of white racism. So I have no problem with it. I thought it was great when Barack Obama used the word one of his speeches when he talked about the events in Baltimore. It was Stokes. Carl Stokes is a councilman. I don't know if he's related to the Stokes, his politics in Cleveland, but
Yes, he was. Carl Stokes, who's passed away? Or?
yeah, there was a Carl Stokes that passed away, but there's also a Carl Stokes Jr. Who was a Baltimore councilman. But he was talking about the riots in Baltimore, and he was on MSNBC or something, and they mentioned the word, we understand, but do you think the actions of the thugs are counterproductive to what people are trying to do? So he said, what do you mean thugs? These are people's children. Don't call them thugs. You go, well, yeah, but they're doing this and they're doing that. He goes, look, just say niggers. We know what you're talking about. You're calling about these black people who are calling this, just say niggers. And this got to be a big issue about the use of he used that word, and it's it's a very powerful word, but there are some times we need powerful words. So yeah, you won't hear me talk about the N-word. To me, that's like trying to hide something and try to devalue something. We got, again, in my struggles, if you hear, how many people here have heard about hashtag Black Lives Matter? Okay, this is a test to see if people raising their hands. Come on. Mm-hmm. Black Lives Matter. Is there anyone here who does not know what the term Black Lives Matter means? All right, good. All right, so here's a typical libertarian response, which is not different from a lot of the Republican response. Someone has a sign, says Black Lives Matter, and the libertarian comes over, and what's he going to say? Anybody know? What would you say? All lives matter, right? You should be libertarian, all lives matter. When I see someone Black Lives Matter, I go, yes, you're right, Black Lives Matter, and I agree with you because I'm a libertarian. I don't say you should want all lives matter because you should be a libertarian. I say, I agree with you. I believe Black Lives Matter, and the reason I'm that way is because I'm a libertarian. Now they're playing libertarians go, oh, he's a Black Lives Matter, he's not a libertarian. And one of the things is, you're not a libertarian unless someone tells you you're not a libertarian, because libertarians are always saying each other are not libertarians. Now,
I do have a question, though.
Yes.
I think he had a legitimate question, and although you called it trigger warnings, it is a specific question about where the lines are if you should choose to legalize marijuana.
Oh, yeah, to get back to it, thank you. But my point what I was getting at is, just because I don't think that a law is proper or effective, okay, I don't believe there should be a law against something, doesn't mean I think that thing is okay or good, or that it's like when people say is, should we allow Muslim clerics to preach in favor of the Islamic State? Well, my question is, first of all, is, what do you mean let? Do they ask our permission? Do we think clergymen need to ask our permission before they say something? So to get to your particular point, just to back it up, one of the questions is, would a law against it be effective? So if we look at it now, if you ask, I've been told, if you ask any high school kid, what's easier to get, marijuana or beer? They will tell you it's a lot easier to get marijuana because people will actually bring it right to the school. No one's going to bring you beer, but they will bring you marijuana. There are people who do that. So the fact that you make it illegal does not necessarily make it less available. So if you ask me, do I think kids should use marijuana? I would say no. I've never used marijuana. All my friends did. I like the idea of they come out with these marijuana lozenges. Because I don't smoke anything. I would never put burning something in my lungs, and the brownies just have too many carbs. But there are newer things coming out. So the question is, do I think kids should use marijuana? No, I don't think kids should use marijuana. Do I think there should be a law against kids using marijuana? Well, I think I would look at it very carefully. And not because, again, I think, and just to switch it, we could talk about something that all libertarians hate to talk about, and probably you all have to. How many people here like talking about abortion? A few, okay. How many people do not like talking about abortion? Okay, so most people don't want to raise their hands. So abortion is an issue, and because people have such strong emotional feelings about it. In fact, I would say that 80% of the people who ask me about my issues, do I have a page about my issues? They're really only interested in that one issue. And but I think that it's an example of an issue like legalization of marijuana, which I look at a bigger picture. How many people here think that our federal government is too big and expensive? How many people think our government should be bigger and more expensive? Nobody. Okay. Now, and this is true nationally. Most people think government is too big. Now, why doesn't it get smaller? It's because we don't get together and say we all think government gets smaller. And why don't we get together? Because we're split into Democrats and Republicans, pro-life and pro-choice, liberals, conservatives. We are split up so that we can't join together in coalition and say, look, we need to stop this. We need to have government that represents the people. One other study that I want to mention, and there was came out of Princeton, I think. I don't know if you just discussed it, but in terms of politics, they did a study comparing survey data with congressional action. So let's say during any particular period of time, if 100% or nearly 100% of Americans wanted Congress to do something, to pass a law about something, what do you think the chance of Congress passing that is, percentage-wise? I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I like percentages.
15%.
15%. So 100%, everybody wants Congress to do something. What's the chance they're going to do it?
100%.
100%.
14%.
14%. Actually, how many of you here that heard the 20-80 rule? It's either 20 or 80. It's actually 30%. So if 100% of people want something to be done, there is a chance of 30% of Congress passing a law. Now, if 0% of people want Congress to do something, what is the chance that they're going to do it? Pass a law?
30%.
30%, exactly right. That there is no correlation whatsoever, a zero correlation between what the public wants and what Congress does, which may have something to do with why Congress has such a low approval rate. Now, if we change and subdivide those surveys and look at only the top socioeconomic level, the top 1%, and when you survey them, okay, if 100% of them want something done, what's the chance the government does it?
80%.
I think it was about 70%. If 0% people want that done, what's the chance of government doing it? Zero. So we do have representative government, just doesn't represent us. And the reason it doesn't represent us, so what most libertarians will say is that we need to make government smaller so government doesn't have as much power, and then they won't be able to give favors, and then we can get money out of our campaigns. We'll never get money out of campaigns until we have smaller government. I look at it the other way around. Just like with racism, we got racism out of our campaigns first, and then we're able to get it out of the government because we didn't have racists in power. Similarly, I think we need to get big money out of our campaigns first, and then we'll be able to balance the budget, and then we'll be able to get things more. Now,
So I have a question though,
yes.
based on that, because we've talked a lot about racism in some ways, and although it may no longer be in the conversation, are you saying that there's no longer racism?
No. That's why I say there's no longer overt racism in campaigns.
But which is more dangerous?
Which is more dangerous?
Yeah, overt or covert racism?
Well,
That's what
I think if
liberation
overt
is.
racism works, it's more dangerous. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. Yes.
Well, I mean, you're saying overt racism is out of campaigns, but I mean, we have Trump as an example using highly inflammatory anti-Latino sentiment and has garnered votes on that. I mean, he's
Yes.
been
So that's why I said
attacked
that's why I.
because that they
yeah.
were influenced by
I agree with you 100%, and that's why I said overt racism. I didn't say getting racism out of our case. But similarly, we're never going to get money out of the campaign. Campaigns do cost money, but we want to get the big money out. We want to get the billions of dollars out. Now, in terms of very interesting thing about, just to tell you about, oh, I guess we never.
Is that time warning?
No, it's messages. But let me just want to see if. Oh, Brendan, did Brendan call me back yet? No. Okay. So I guess he's probably not going to make it. But in any event, talking overt racism and about Trump. So, for instance, there's a wonderful analysis by Milton Friedman on the subject of immigration and the economy. And what he said if you look at immigration from Mexico to the United States in terms of the economy is great on one condition, as long as it's illegal. That the illegal immigration is fantastic for the U.S. economy, and the legal immigration, on balance, is okay, but really doesn't help us nearly as much as the illegal immigration.
And why is that?
Why is that? Because illegal immigrants have to go through a lot to get here. They have to sacrifice and work, and the only reason they come is to get a job, to work. They're here to work, and they're here to take a job that is available to them, which means other people aren't doing it. So they're coming to work. They do work. They not only do they work, but they pay, if they're with most places they work, they pay payroll taxes. Now, how do you pay payroll taxes if you don't have a Social Security number? You make one up, or you take one from a kid or something. So they're actually paying into Social Security, and they're not getting any benefits out of it. They're the only group that definitely is supporting. They are floating. Illegal immigrants help to float Social Security. That's why Social Security is not bankrupt right now. They also don't get into trouble with the law nearly as much as American citizens do, because they're illegal. If they get into trouble for law, if they jaywalk, they could be deported. They're here illegally. So this is a group of people that stay out of trouble, work hard, help our economy, and for every 10 of them who do a job at a low rate, you're going to have one person or two people who need to manage those managers wouldn't have a job. So yeah, they helped our economy, they helped jobs, they helped Social Security, but if you have this emotional thing about breaking the law, well, they're illegal. They're breaking the law. We need to be a country of laws. Well, guess what? We're a country of laws, but if the laws are bad, if the laws are racist, if the laws support the special interests. Now, the other question is, and this is where it kind of makes, as a libertarian, we're conspiracy theorists down to the bone. And you look behind these things, you think of it this way: if illegal immigration is so bad, why do we have so much of it? We're a powerful country. Why didn't we address this years ago? People, one of my more successful tweets, I said, I know why Donald Trump is running for president. It's for the same reason I started cutting my own grass. You're paying people to do something for so long. It gets so expensive. It's easier and cheaper. Just do it yourself. So people like Trump have been running our government anyhow. Yeah, it's nice cutting out the middleman, but if people like Trump didn't want illegal immigration, we wouldn't have it. Okay. The reason we have illegal immigration is that Democrats like it. I once said that Republicans aren't against illegal immigration because they're worried about future criminals. They're worried about future Democrats. That immigrants, whether they're legal, probably legal even more than illegal, but the more immigration that they tend to vote Democrat. But a segment of the Republican Party, the wealthy top 1%, realizes that these people create jobs, that they do work, that they're good for the economy, and they're good for big business. And so that they're in favor because it makes them money. But like you said, there is that appeal to racism there, and I would not say it. And just to give you an example of how covert it could be, I read a fascinating article about the CEO of not Twitter, one of the high-tech companies, and they changed their hiring policy to take it or leave it. They do not negotiate salaries. If you want a job with them, they will offer you a job, they will offer you a salary. You can't say, well, if I work harder, can I get a little more? No, this is the salary, this is the job. Take it or leave it. They say, why did you do it that way? Any guesses why they do it that way? Nobody.
Americans are entitled.
Okay, what else?
I think I actually might have read that. Is it because it reduces the wage gap because men are more likely to negotiate?
Exactly. We don't even know. I would take a step back. I can't be sure but what they find is that when they do it this way, men and women who they hire get paid the same. Whereas if you allow people to negotiate, then for whatever reason, you end up with men making more than the women. Now, this goes to, what I like to say is that that we have equality of value. That's something we should recognize. A black life is worth the same as a white life or an Asian life. Everybody is worth the same. They certainly don't have the same outcomes, they don't have the same opportunities, but we should start off by saying, look, we do have equality of value. That's something that is in the nature of human beings. So just start from there. Then you can say, well, you're saying that you should have equality of outcomes. I'm not saying that we need to make outcomes equal, but what I'm saying is this, is that if you assume that everybody is of equal value, like, what I say is this, if someone is going to the casino, how many people have been to the Horseshoe Casino? A few. So I'll tell you, the last time I went, just to tell you a little bit of me. Last time I went to the Horseshoe Casino about a year and a half ago, and this was the last time I was there. I walked in, went right to a roulette table. They said, "Do you want $1 chips or $5 chips?" I said, "Give me $25 chips." So they gave me a stack. I gave them a stack of money. They gave me $25 chips. And everybody's doing their reds, their whites, their evens, their odds, their inside, their outside. I take one $25 chip and I put it on number 4. They spin the wheel. Boom, 4 hits. First time. I get 36-1. I said, "Nice meeting everybody. See ya." I walked out, didn't come back, never went back. Because for me, I don't get the enjoyment out of gambling, and I enjoy more being able to tell a story like that. So, and that's the way to do well at gambling is if you ever win, quit and never gamble again in your life. Because if you keep it now, if someone goes to the casino and they win every single time they go in, eventually they will be kicked out of that casino because the odds are in the house's favor. Now, someone could win once, they could win twice, but if they're winning every single time, then you don't know what they're doing, but chances are there is definitely something going on. So similarly, I'm not saying that there should be equal outcomes for everybody, but if you see...
While we're waiting here, if you have questions, you can send your cards this way, okay?
Yeah, we're getting to...
Did you get some chocolate?
I have a question. I wanted to...
So I'm just to finish up. So when you look at our prison system, if you look at our inner cities, if you look at the wage gaps, when you see the outcomes are very, very unequal, you can't just say, well, people aren't working harder or people aren't pulling themselves by the bootstraps. There's something going on there, and if we have people of equal value, we need to be looking at the system. Now,
so how do you mean that, though? Okay, you're saying people are of equal value, but they don't have the same opportunities. What do you do?
Okay, well, I was going to spend 2 minutes talking about my plan to fix this. Half of it we already discussed. I call it the balancing credit plan. Basically, there's only 2 things I want to do as President of the United States. And these are the main things. Number 1, balance the budget. Number 2, change all charitable contributions from deductions to taxable income to dollar per dollar tax credits. So if you donate $100 to a deductible charity, you can take $100 off your tax liability. Yes?
So then when everyone put all of what they would have paid in taxes towards a charity of their fund,
yes.
And for example, charities that would support what you don't like in general, big businesses support things that come back themselves, want every big business then support charities which will only help them, and the United States government won't get any tax money?
Well, starting with the fact is I'm only doing this with individuals, not with corporate taxes. Okay. So start with that, which is about 1/3 of our tax revenue. So I'm just talking about individuals. Oh my, what the heck is that? So, I think it stopped recording. But this is a question, is that if you do this, how much? Now, I just want to look at the feedback loop. Remember, I'm balancing the budget and keeping it balanced, which means if people decide to donate to a charity, for every dollar they donate to charity, we need to cut the federal budget by $1. But now we have the data where to cut the budget, because if people are donating to education, that means the federal government has to decrease the education budget. Or could decrease the education budget. And if you're like me, like most people are, who feel that private organizations are just as efficient and effective, or more so than government, that means we can cut our government budget dramatically without hurting any of the beneficiaries, because we're just moving the decision making from centralized government to this. Now, what I would say with you is, you go, what about people who are donating just to support the special interests? Well, that would be a much bigger issue if we didn't already have a government that supports the special interests. So what I would say is that would be a net no change. Because basically when you're giving money to the IRS right now, you're supporting the special interests. So I would say that's no change. But what this does is it empowers that sure, there's a lot of people who don't want to bother going through, and actually I'll disagree with you, because frankly, most people aren't going to want to bother. The fact is, in Ohio, there is one thing you can donate to where you get a dollar per dollar tax credit, up to $100 per couple, $50 per person. So you could donate to there's one sector that you could donate to, and this is considered so important to our government and to our society that they will give $1 back on your taxes, so it costs you nothing to donate to this. Does anyone here know what it is? Would anyone care to guess? Kai, I need some guesses. Come on. What is so worthwhile? Yes.
Is it some sort of social service?
It could be considered, all right, Mike, 20 questions. It could be considered, some people consider it social service. Personally, I do not consider it a social service.
Something to do with education?
Something to do with that. Good, see, we're in a classroom. You should think education is important. I'm glad someone said education. No. Anybody else? What's that? Religious, because religion is very important to people. No. Something that's much more important. The answer is campaign contributions. If you can donate $50 to any statewide candidate, you can take $50 off your taxes, because that is what our government thinks is so important, that you get a dollar for dollar tax credit. Personally, as a libertarian, we're against taxation. But if you were to ask some, and people have different ideas. Well, you could tax imports, you could tax the unapproved value of land. The one area that I think we should tax campaign contributions. To me, that makes sense. If how about a 50% tax? And if you want to donate $1 to a candidate, you got to donate $2, and then $1 goes to support social services. I mean, this idea of having campaign contributions be that you could take that off your taxes. Now, but just in terms of the balancing credit program, so that's what I do now. One of the points of that is this empowers every group of people, because most people are still, tell you the truth, most people will probably be, they're paying the money anyway. Just they get their deductions from their payroll. If they have payroll deductions, they'll get a little refund. Yeah, maybe they'll increase their charge, but the vast majority of people are not going to say, I don't want to send any money to the IRS. I'm going to figure out what charities to donate to. On the other hand, what people can do is, if you are in the black community and you think that the black community priorities are more important than fighting ISIL or fighting marijuana, or I don't know what else, our government, or abortion or whatever else. If you're pro-life, you want to support, there are tax-deductible pro-life organizations. There are tax-deductible pro-choice organizations. You can support whatever. You could use your money. You could. I mean, if you think about how much we pay in taxes, that's a significant grant that every individual taxpayer could give to support wherever they want. And I think that's very empowering. And I think it would improve government, because it puts every government agency in direct competition with the private sector. So if you call the IRS, I'll bet you they're going to answer the phone. If you call you call some government agency, HGW or whatever, they're going to be customer oriented, because they know if the public doesn't support them, they're going to support the private organizations. So that's called the balancing credit plan. So, and I think that this would really move our whole government in the right direction. Yes.
What if like 70% of donors though decide to support like the SPCA, and so you don't have like a good balance of flowing income?
Because they're not. I mean, they're not. You know, the fact is that you know, if you can trust people to vote for someone who's going to do the right thing, then you can trust them to spend their money. Let me ask you a question. Do you think people tend to be more responsible with their own money or more responsible when they have the opportunity to spend other people's money? I agree with you. So I think that if you let people spend their own money, and they tend to do it more locally where they know what's going on, it allows you to spend money nationally because there are people all over. Now you could say that, well, this does, you know, rich people pay more taxes than poor people. That means rich people will be able to spend, you know, more to charitable organizations. Yes, but you know, we do have controls on charitable organizations. Charitable organizations can't, you can't, you know, pay somebody $100 million to be head of a charity. You just can't do it. I mean, Cleveland Clinic, we pay the head of the Cleveland Clinic, I think, about $2 or $3 million a year, and already. But if you compare that to CEOs of other billion-dollar companies, their salaries are comparatively low. All right, now what I want to spend the end with, because I want to get your opinions on something, because you're bright people and you're young people and you know what's going on. Okay, to go to your essay. In 2012, 1 million people voted for Gary Johnson. 66 million voted for Barack Obama. 60 million people voted for Romney. I'm really not interested in those people, any of them. There were 100 million people who could have voted and did not vote. They're the ones. So I'm not saying vote for me because, and people say, well, why should I vote for you? That means that's going to let this guy win. Here's a group of 100 million people who really don't care which one wins because they don't think it makes that much of a difference to them. So they're not voting at all. So they're not worried about wasting their vote because they wasted it last time. So what I like to say is, some people say voting for a libertarian is like not voting at all. So if you've been not voting at all in the past, this time around, why don't you not vote by voting for a libertarian? Now, if I could get 2% of those 100 million people to vote, just 1 out of 50 to vote libertarian, I will do twice what Gary Johnson did. Now, how do I do that? Well, one of the things I do is by focusing on votes not for sale, money in politics, get money out of politics. Well, how do I convince people that I want to get money out of politics? Well, one is I have a limit on campaign contributions. Actually, at the beginning of the campaign, Jeb Bush put out a thing. He didn't want any contributions over $1 million. He had enough money for now. It wasn't looking good, so he asked his donors to limit it to $1 million. I'm the only other candidate who limits, but my limit is $5. I don't accept more than $5. If you go to my website, you can donate $1, you can donate $2. If you try to donate $6, I said, sorry, you're over your limit. I don't accept more than $5 from anybody. Now, I want to talk specifically about one subgroup, is the Hispanic. Do we have anyone here who considers themselves Hispanic? Part of the Hispanic community. Yeah, well, so that's usually 30%. Exactly, it's about 50% of the population, about 30% of the non-voters. So that's unfortunate. But it does let me. Well, now I can pretend I'm an expert because you can't say, well, you're not Hispanic, because you're not Hispanic either. All right. The number one issue for Hispanics is what? Altogether. Not immigration. The immigration is number 4. Above that is economy and jobs, but they're not number 1. And if you ask Hispanics, try it. If you know someone who's a family from Mexico or Puerto Rico, so what is the number 1 political issue for you? They will tell you education. Education is the number 1 issue. You'd think it was immigration. What I say is, education is the number 1 issue for Hispanics. Immigration is the number 1 issue of Democrats and Republicans for Hispanics. The reason is that education changes lives and immigration changes elections. So it's education. So I'm talking to a Hispanic, and I say I understand that, and my balance and credit plan will allow you to really focus on the Hispanic community and yourselves decide how to improve the education, how to get education that works. He says, yeah, everybody says that. Everybody wants us because they want our vote, then they kick us to the curb. What makes, why should I believe you? Okay, and I will mention, Hispanics, it's not like they're anti-politics. Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico vote approximately 90% of the time. When they move to the United States, they vote 9% of the time. Okay, and it's not immigration, they're just moving, they're already American citizens. So why is it they vote 90% of the time in Puerto Rico but only 9% here? It's not because they suddenly became uninterested in politics. I think it's because they don't feel like they have anyone who represents them. So I want to represent them. So but they go, yeah, you say you want to represent us, but how do you know? I say, well, I've got a $5 limit. So if you donate $5 to my campaign, you'll be my biggest contributor. And they usually, that speaks to them. They're like, wow, you may have something there. But then there's a very interesting response that kind of surprised me. One fellow said to me, okay, you want me to believe in you, but I don't even believe in myself. And if you look at the data, a lot of the people in this non-voter group are like this. They struggle for money. They have trouble making ends meet. They know what it's like to borrow money from family and friends to pay the bills. They didn't get anywhere after high school. A lot of them didn't finish high school. So what he's basically saying is, why should I want to vote for somebody who wants to represent somebody like me? I'm not that valuable a commodity. There must be something wrong with you, basically, if you want to represent somebody like me. I wouldn't want to vote for somebody who wants to represent, people like us. We're no good. Everybody knows that. It's this, whether it's due to internalization of discrimination, but these people who really feel themselves that they are not valuable. And I'll tell you, this is one of the things, and when I've spoken to black groups, I get agreement about this. I say that it's hard to get white people to understand that Black Lives Matter. It's even harder to get black people to understand that Black Lives Matter. And I say that mass incarceration, police brutality are Black Lives Matter problems, and they need to be addressed. But black on black violence and drug abuse and police neglect are also problems of devaluation of black lives, and that so the question is, how do we communicate with people to get them to value themselves? How do we get people who don't vote to say, vote? Don't worry, they're not worried about wasting their vote. I need to give them a reason to vote. So I'm going to open this up for the last minute, which is about as much time with the interaction I've been able to get from you guys. But you read it. You know what these non-voters are like. How can I get and incentivize or persuade non-voters to vote?
I think it'd be cool if you got a tax credit for voting.
Tax credit, a lot of these people don't pay taxes, but we can't really pay people to vote. I certainly can't. But I mean, I'm a candidate. What message? How can I send a message? There's Facebook, there's YouTube, things.
Yeah, but if these people are poor, how much access do they have to the social media?
Well, they have phones. Even no matter how poor you are, people have it because you have to have a phone.
Let us vote on our phones.
Okay, look. Okay. All right, the Democrats. Okay, let me just to clarify this. Okay, the Democrats are spending $2.5 billion on this campaign. The Republicans are also spending $2.5 billion on this campaign. I will probably end up spending, if I get the nomination, less than $1 million on this campaign. So now it doesn't cost anything to have a message. So that's what I'm saying is there a way to communicate to people? They're spending, and I'll tell you, the Democrats and Republicans don't want. Bernie Sanders came out with this comment I tell people I agree with Bernie Sanders on 100% of the problems and 0% of the solutions. But anybody have any suggestions? All right. Well, I'm very fast. If people have someplace to go, we can let them go. But I'll bet you in 5 minutes I could take care of the majority of these questions if people have them.
Well, some of them have classes.
No, I
right
understand.
after this. The other thing, I wanted you to tell them your website or something. If you said if they have questions that you could.
Oh, sure. I mean, you can send me an email definitely. www.votesnotforsale.com, all in letters. It's been a blast. I'll tell you, I'm definitely gonna. I don't have any place to go.
Well,
so
I tell you what.
do we have the
those
room
who have
for-
classes, we have the room for like 4 minutes.
Okay, that's
Okay,
good.
so those who have to leave, we'll see you next class. Thank you. Let's all thank you very much. And those who want to stick around for answering questions, let's do it in a minute. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Actually, if you have questions, I will put up a web page and I'll answer any questions that people have.
We have like back-to-back classes.
Oh no, no, it's no
I have
problem.
class on the quad now, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Obviously, you are against the obesity pandemic. Does that change your opinion on like universal health care? Government.
All right, so my comment on universal health care, I am a firm believer in universal health care. I think everyone universally should care about their health.
Okay.
All right, now, again, I'm against government control.
So it should be privatized.
I don't even like the term privatized. I would say.
Why do you make it?
How about what's that? Because it sounds like you're taking something which should be public and making it private. It's kind of like saying that I'm giving you a tax. I don't like saying I'm giving you a tax refund.
Right.
You earn the money. It's your money. I'm just not taking it.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether a term like desocialized or returning stolen property. I mean, it's like I would say you privatize the air if you could find some way of taking air which we all share and make it. Yeah, that would be private. Anyway, but in terms of health care, this is a great example of. Oh, here's the point. Here's the thing. The latest thing that really blew my mind. I thought it this way. Military spending. Okay, we spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined. Okay, but there's these candidates who have the chutzpah to get on TV and say, we need a strong America, we need to build up our military, we need to increase the military budget. We can cut other places, but we need to have we need to increase the military budget. Now, we need to have healthy people, right? Why is it that no candidate anywhere will say, we need to spend more money on health care? Nobody would say that.
I don't know if you have time for
And if you look behind it, you have to say, well, who's making money on this? Who's making money on healthcare versus who's making money on the military? And how these messages are going. So
that all comes back to donors.
And the answer is that I think that well, just let me give you an example. In the balancing credit program, if I can get this balancing credit program passed, Catholic Charities has loads of hospitals. They're going to say this. Well, there's free money. There's all this money that people can spend, it can give to us. It doesn't cost them a dime. How can we get it? Well, there's the veterans, okay? They have veterans hospitals, but we have much better hospitals. We have better outcomes. We take better care of people. Why don't we say, donate to us, we'll take care of veterans for free. No paperwork. Any veteran, you're a veteran, you come in, we get you on board, we'll give you free health care. Great. There's plenty of people who would support free health care for veterans. Okay? Now, if I said as president, I want to close these inefficient, expensive veteran hospitals, I would get flack. I'd get assassinated. And also because there's a lot of people who work in veterans hospitals. It's an interest group. But if I say, no, let's give veterans the choice, do they want to be taken by the VA or do they want to go to their local excellent Catholic hospital for free? So they're going to do it. And these veterans hospitals, frankly, the Catholic hospitals probably end up buying the veterans hospitals. But and I'm not saying I just pick Catholic. I mean, there are Catholics I know have hospitals, but there are there's Jewish hospitals, there's secular hospitals and things. So in terms of healthcare, and just to go through again is that there's various levels of healthcare. One important level of healthcare is fitness. That people who don't have diseases can walk, can climb stairs, get short of breath, be an appropriate weight, etc., which I think is very important. And that shouldn't be a matter of law, but we need to get people to be concerned about their health from that standpoint. Then there's prevention, the level of prevention. Now, I will just tell you, we could play the guessing game, but the biggest thing that our society does for healthcare is separating the sewage from the drinking water. Okay, once you've done that, that's like 90% of why we're healthier than third world countries. If you have clean water and your sewage doesn't contaminate your water, all right, you've already got 90. So if we just kept our sewage separate from the drinking water and got rid of our entire healthcare system, we would still be not, you almost wouldn't see the difference compared to developing countries. Because the fact is, everybody dies. People don't want to think about it. Everybody dies, and almost everybody gets sick before they die. So, all of our medical technology is trying to change a very, very small, part of that. So why is it a big deal? It's a big deal because it's big money. We spend tremendous amounts of money on our healthcare system, and but it's like all the problems. And one of the things I say in my campaign, there are all these problems that are too big and too important for the government to do it in terms of politics. Government just can't handle it or won't handle it. So the way I would do it is I try to take each of these problems and break it into 300 million pieces and give each person the resources and the decision-making ability to solve that little tiny piece of the problem. So I want you to have enough money and decision-making ability to get your health care taken care of.
Right.
Now, whether that should be through a healthcare savings account, through an insurance program, through some kind of, there used to be these mutual aid programs, depending on your religion or your occupation, you would put some money in, and then that community would take care of the healthcare needs of that community.
Right, that was welfare before the welfare state ever
Right,
existed.
and this has gone away.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, I'm not against welfare, I'm against government welfare. Because the fact is that government, the reason why there's twice as many people on food stamps is because Democratic people likes having people on food stamps. They support the Democratic Party. It's great. If you're in a community-based welfare, they don't just want to take care of you. They want to get you to take care of yourself. Okay. You look at everybody talks about this terrible income. We have the rich that are too rich and the poor that are too poor. And Democrats talk about it, Republicans talk about it. They love it because it's a whole lot easier to get a lot of tax money from rich people than get a lot of tax money from middle-class people. There's two kinds of people who depend on big government: really poor people and really rich people. So while we have big government, we shouldn't be surprised if we end up with a lot of rich. Libertarians, we like middle class. We like, it's like, if people really had the choice. Okay, let me last thing. My grandfather put himself through law school selling chickens on the streets of Georgetown. Okay, now you can tell me what people can sell on the streets to make money. They're not going to just selling chickens. You can sell drugs, your body, those illegal stuff, because everything is so regulated. And that's
the only risk worthwhile, because if you're selling chickens on the street, you're going to get arrested.
Or
you're going to have $5 in your pocket.
And you're not going to make money.
You sell
right.
drugs, you'll have 100 at least.
But now, the reason that this can change is because of the internet. And one of the things that he mentioned, and I could have had a whole other talk. I just heard a great, and I will send you. I just heard a link about internet marketing, and one of the points they make is that in terms of technology, if there are no cars and no horses and people have to walk, if you have a store in the middle of a community, you have a captive market. They have to come to you. So you're going to change how you market stuff. You're going to try to sell more expensive, more profitable things, but you don't have to worry about them coming to you. Now, if you've got cars, and everybody drives, then you've just lost that. You have to market differently. You have to get people attracted to you. You don't own the market. Okay? And this is what they say with the internet is people don't own the market anymore. So libertarians can't take from Republicans anymore because Republicans don't own those votes. And this is one of the things they're saying is that you have to earn every customer. And this is going to change the way we think about marketing and change the way we think about influencing people. And this is how I, as a libertarian, I tell people, I'm not doing this to make a point. I'm doing this. I think that I tell people you're delusional if you think I'm going to be the next president, but you're delusional if you think there's no chance. There's actually probably a 30% chance that I will be the Libertarian nominee, and if I'm the Libertarian nominee, there's a 5 or 10% chance that 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 that my message might take off, and I could be the next president of the United States. It's and you could say you were here. Anyway, so in terms of healthcare, it's the idea of breaking it down and giving, and when it's choice, when you know about supply and demand. When government puts money into something, that increases the demand without changing the supply, so it mainly increases the price. And that's what's happening in healthcare. And, I had an idea for the student loans. Since you're students, I'll tell you how my idea is the biggest problem with student loan debt is that the interest rates are too high. 6-7%, you can't pay it, you can't defer it. If you defer it, it gets so big by the time you're finished. If we could drop it to 2%, then people could defer it and pay it back later. So if all we did was drop student loan debt to 2%, that would take care of the vast majority of the problem. Okay, now put that aside. All right, let's talk about Social Security. The main problem with Social Security is it only pays 1%. And the reason it only pays 1% is because government just borrows that money, spends it, and then taxes people to pay it back. It doesn't get invested in something that makes money.
What would you invest in?
Well, I would invest it in something where you could pay money now, like to people in education, who then become more valuable because later they get a job and they could pay it back with interest.
Oh, use the student loan debt as the...
Right. Give it an option to people on Social Security to buy bonds, that those bonds securitize student loan debt. So this brings student loan debt from 7-8% down to 2%. It brings Social Security up from 1% to 2%. You get the older people supporting the education of the younger people supporting when they get jobs, supporting the retirement of the older people. So it gets government out of both sides of things. You don't get government borrowing money from Social Security. You don't get government lending money to the students. So this is again a way to kind of break it down. I told my son, I said, hey, I got a kind of out of the box